زايدة دلوقتي، وأهم حاجة فيه بقت حماية الsensitive information. عملنا سيشن كاملة هنتكلم فيها عن ال practices و threats and strategies of cloud computing. رحبوا معايا ببروفيسور أحمد طه from IU Germany في سيشن بعنوان Securing the Cloud Best Practices, Threats and Strategies.
سوري. طيب احنا هنحاول نخلي السيشن انتراكتيف عشان تبقى more detailed. تاني حاجة السيشن it will not go through most common security practices زي أي cloud session، بس هنتكلم أكتر على what we face in the companies. Around 90, according to the Intel Cloud Security Report, around 90% of the organization moved to the cloud. Either they are working with a hybrid private cloud or a public cloud model. Furthermore, around 62% of the participants provided that or replied that they are setting the cloud customer data on a public cloud. يعني أكتر منها عشان لو عايزين يشتغلوا from online, from anywhere, or they can share it with others, فبنستعمل Dropbox or Google Drive or something like that. Furthermore, also 52% have traced a malware in the cloud apps. Around 50% say that or slowed down the adoption of cloud because they are trying to find the security candidate with the required skills. Finally, 65% from the IT profession find that shadow cloud services can hinder the adoption of cloud. Let's take a look for the previous around recent security attacks in the big companies. The Facebook in 2021, a problem in the synchronization, the context sync had led to 530 million data or accounts data to be leaked. Furthermore, a hacker gained due to a malware or due to a misconfiguration in a WAF, a hacker قدر إن هو access 100 million Capital One contacts, which are credit card accounts and different things, وقدر إن هو which led to $190 million settlement. Furthermore, for Accenture, AWS publicly accessible AWS S3 has leaked around 132 gigabytes of data, which led to which were API credentials as well as encryption keys, as well as others like Tesla, which there was the server which the attackers can install crypto miners threads, as well as others like Uber and others. Let's go for the challenges that we are facing. So currently, الشركات دي they are hiring the best security candidates in the market. So why do we have this kind of of attacks? So basically, even in our companies, in our banks, we are facing some attacks. Even we are setting out the tools, we are bringing the best candidates, بس إحنا عندنا الأتاكس دي لسه. First of all, the human error and misconfiguration, ودي أكتر حاجة موجودة إن إحنا whatever security expert is, there is a human error and there is a misconfiguration. Secondly, the complexity of the cloud environment and the rapid pace of the cloud environment, and some of the companies they are not pushing for training for their employees. وcloud environment بيتغير بسرعة قوي. Secondly, the insufficient collaboration between the teams, and this is one of the biggest problems that we are facing in the security team, operation and development. هم ما بيشتغلوش مع بعض. Whenever, for example, the development team, they are creating a new instance, they are not informing, there is no process to get an acceptance or approval from the security, and this is making some problems. And there are many others like the legacy systems, misunderstanding of responsibilities, and many others. بس آخر حاجتين أو the most common things that I find in most of the companies, one of them is the inadequate investment in the security tools. Even لو جبنا أحسن ناس بس ما عندناش security tools to monitor and to respond back, then we are facing a threat. And develop now and secure later mindset. ودي أكتر حاجة for example for the SaaS companies they are suffering from because they need to develop first, to develop fast, send things fast, and they say that okay, we are going to deploy, we are going live, and then after that we can check the security. Type. As we just mentioned, the shared responsibility, we are having to understand the responsibility or to understand what we need to secure, we need to understand the responsibility. There are cloud providers' responsibility and our responsibility as a customers. And there are shared ones. For the cloud providers, securing the infrastructure, securing the data center, securing the physical servers, network devices. How can I make sure that the provider is offering that? عن طريق compliance, our certificates, which we are going to go through later. Oh, sorry. The customer responsibilities, securing the data, access management, and different identities and configuration. Shared responsibility can be the patch management or better configuration for our environment. طيب خلينا ناخد بقى first poll. Which of these is the most threat to our cloud environment? The API, let's say the API, which is exposed APIs can be the gateway to our environment to allow attackers to access our environment. Container security, which most of the companies are using containers more than the virtual machines. And any misconfiguration in a container can allow the customers to allow the attackers to access our network. And insider threats, سواء إن هي intentionally أو unintentionally, insider threats can steal keys and sell keys to the network. Finally, the advanced persistent APT attacks. مين أكتر واحدة we are facing in our environment؟ يعني ممكن نجرب أي حاجة عادي. طب أي حد يقول حاجة. Sorry? تمام. So the insider threats is the most common. فالأربعة they are common. فإحنا مش بندور أكتر على what we are, what of these cloud security threats that we are facing. بس إحنا بندور أكتر على إيه الأفكت أو الإفكت بتاع these threats أو these attacks on our network. The first one, which is the most important one, is the data breach. أكتر حاجة بتخاف منها كل companies is the data breach, customer data breach. لأن إحنا هنبقى non-compliant, هيبقى reputation وحشة جدا, هيبقى علينا penalties كتيرة قوي. Secondly is the insider threats. As he mentioned as well, the insider threats is really a bad actor in our environment, لأن إحنا ما بنعرفش نجيبه بسهولة. Whether there is suspicious activity, it's not that easy to be done. And insider threat, as I said, intentionally or unintentionally, سواء إن هو بيقدر إن هو access our network أو يconfigure. From this side, insider threats, they can sell keys to the hackers, and the hackers can hijack our accounts, أو عن طريق phishing, our URL, our social attacks. Finally, the APT, which are sophisticated attacks that stay in stealth mode until it can get access to the network. It's not a harmful attack, but it needs only data breach. What we are going to discuss are the most common ones in our environment. Like identity access management, data encryption, network security, DevSecOps, which is an important one, and compliance. Talking about the identity access management, لازم نستعمل MFA. Even in our life, يعني WhatsApp, for example, we need to have an MFA in the WhatsApp. هي الناس الحقيقة بتتعامل مع واتساب على إن هو صديقنا المخلص. They are using it really to send pictures, videos, credit cards, أي حاجة تقريبا. فإحنا بنستعمله على إن هو ده حد أمان we can use. And it's not the case. ما ينفعش we cannot sell something on the WhatsApp. And it's better to use MFA on all of our environment that we can use. And simply the WhatsApp is the same. And employ the least privilege. We need to employ the least privilege. For example, in some companies, the developers are taking admin accounts in order not to fasten the deployment, to fasten the development. So in order not to go for the security team take access, so they are taking an admin account. The problem in the admin account, once there is an attacker on one of these accounts, they are having a full admin access on the network. So, sorry. we need to identify what privileges each employee needs. HR is different, the security is different, the development. Regular access review is done always on the network, on the access controls, and the last one, SSO, which is the best practice for the cloud, not to use the password and sharing the password, but using SSO. For the encryption, which of these are less common؟ يعني ايه الحاجات اللي انتوا بتشوفوها على طول في الشركة مثلا او في الديبلويمنت في البست براكتس وفي حاجات مش موجودة كتير؟ ماشي، لا مش عارف ايه النور. طيب هفترض ان انتوا قلتوا لي فان هي الداتا كلاسيفيكيشن. For the first, everyone اعتقد ان كل الناس عندها في الداتا encryption and we are using 500 AES 512 or 256 data in transit, that all the data coming to our going out of the cloud is encrypted using TLS, and we are using not at least TLS 1.2. For key management, which we are using key management, ropes key management, which for key storage rotation. But data classification, some of us don't classify the data, whether they are confidential, strict, public. حتى لو عملنا classification, we are not enforcing this classification. ما بنعملش بيها حاجة. You can find out that the employees are sharing confidential data, are sharing confidential documents. So we need to have a training for the employees. As we are going to go through later, training is not only courses, بس ممكن يبقى escape room. We are going to explain this later. Then the network security, we have to have segmentation, that we are isolating the networks, they are isolating the subnets within the cloud environment in order that if someone is attacked, the others are not. Using VPC in order to isolate the network and to check the ingress and egress, the communication model in and out of the cloud. And deploying the WAF. The WAF is the first gateway, mainly the first point that can secure our environment into the cloud, checking what are the open ports, checking IPs, checking the accounts, countries. The WAF is really important thing to be used. Sorry. And finally, IDS and IDPS, and this is deployed on the agents, on the network devices in order to prevent or detect any suspicious activity. أنا ماشي بسرعة ولا الناس؟ تمام. طيب DevSecOps. Usually it's a new term, بس يعني not that new, but it's a new term. We are usually احنا بنسمع عن DevOps. We are enforcing security in DevOps in order to have the DevSecOps, which means that, and I'm going to the life cycle, to have security policies as a code for continuous testing and enforcement. لو حد مش فاهم حاجة ممكن يوقفني عادي يعني ممكن في أي وقت نوقف يعني. And automated vulnerability scanning to have the DAST, which is dynamic application security testing, directly through the CI/CD pipeline always, which is a continuous one. Continuous compliance checks in order to identify whether we are compliant or not. We are going to mention that as well. And the automated incident response. Right. For the DevSecOps life cycle, for first, we start by having two environments, pre-production and the production. Pre-production, هيبقى كل test, which is the static or at-rest testing, as we can mention. For the production, ongoing testing or dynamic testing. For pre-production, we start with the plan. Whenever we are having a production, we're having a go or a release, we have to start by a risk assessment and change management. والحاجتين دول لو الناس شغالة في GRC الحاجتين دول بيطلبوا في أي audit. Do you have a change management process? Do you have a risk assessment process for any plan? And then we start the code. And during the code, we are testing the code in order, or the SAST, what we name it as static application security testing, to check whether there is any vulnerabilities or not in our code or any leakage of information. And then the build, which is checking again the SAST, but for the libraries, for third-party libraries, if there is any vulnerabilities there. And then we are testing our environment using ADAST or dynamic application security testing in order to test this before going for release. The most common one for the DAST is the Burp Suite, and the most common for the code for SAST, there's Sneak. Next one, خلاص احنا we can sometimes in the test, some companies are doing the penetration testing at the test phase. So when we are going for production, start by the release, then we are checking the checking the configuration, security testing environment, how we are going for continuous testing. Then the deployment, and for the deploy, we are having the penetration testing at that phase to check the identity access management and many other things. Then the monitor, which is continuous monitoring of our environment, and finally the respond, which is whenever there's an incident, we can respond. Compliance, and this is a big thing. I don't know how many of you started or experienced an audit before. تمام. أنهي audit؟ سوقته تمام. عامل ايه الأول الأخبار؟ ربنا يخليك. There's another one for SOC 2. ايه الأوديت؟ تمام. For the audit احنا عندنا نوعين من الاوديت. For the audit for a certificate that we need a certificate زي ISO 27001 زي ال SOC 2 report CSA star، فده نوع من الاوديت. النوع الثاني الاصعب شويه اللي بيبقى governmental audit. في مصر يمكن ما فيش غير البنوك اللي بيبقى عليها في رقابه عاليه من البنك المركزي، بس مثلا في السعوديه او الامارات في الهيئه السعوديه بتعمل audit صعب قوي، وفي الهيئه الاماراتيه بتعمل audit صعب قوي، لان they go into details ويقول لك show the evidence. ففي الاوديت all the things that we discussed before this should be presented as an evidence في الاوديت. فاللي احنا محتاجينه اول حاجه to have the audit is to understand what is the regulations, what are the needed evidence. Secondly, implement these compliance controls, and all the company should be working on this, development, business, HR, because this is part of the audit, and should be regular internal audits. Any company, there should be an internal audit, and it should be separate one or isolated one, and not to be biased in different things. Finally, documentation and report. طيب احنا جبنا سيرة some reports but our standards sorry، فبس ناخدها بسرعة. The ISO 27001 this is the main information security management system, and this contains the controls. Whenever لما احنا فاكرين في provider shared responsibility في provider, whenever we are asking a provider it should be ISO 27001 comply, GDPR comply, and there is SOC 2 report. الحاجات دي هي دي اللي بنسأل عليها في البروفايدر. انا مش هقدر امونيتور البروفايدر، بس هقدر اساله على ايه السيرتيفيكتس اللي عندك. GDPR it's the EU regulation started in 2018 or 17, and it was enforced for all the companies, which is saving our having restrictions on the personal or private data. CSA level 2 it's related mainly to the cloud, which includes third-party assessment of the cloud service providers. And then the SOC 2, it's a security assessment which shows your controls in the network, what controls you are having in the network. And if a customer is asking your company about what controls you are having, I cannot share the security controls, but we can share the SOC 2 type 2 report, because security controls are confidential, but SOC 2 type 2 report it can be sent. Finally, PDPL, ودي يمكن السعودية, but I think it will be common in the next years. They are enforcing as GDPR, but they are naming it as PDPL, which is a privacy law, similar to GDPR, but it's for Saudi, and it's enforced from September. So they give the companies around 2 years to work on it, and enforced from this September. وأي شركة مش هتقدر to comply with they pay a huge penalty. طيب automation tools أعتقد إن دي ممكن تبقى حاجة مفيدة لينا نعرف إيه التولز، لأن للأسف أو مش للأسف يعني GDPR جارتنر كل شوية بتطلع اسم جديد أو abbreviation جديد، هو بيبقى بالنسبه لنا هل ده احنا محتاجين حاجه ليه، محتاجين تول ليه، ولا دي حاجه ملهاش لازمه. فالفيرست tool that we need the SIM, which collects all the logs from the networks in order for the SOC team to check this SIM, to check the logs, and to identify whether there is a security incident. تاني واحدة which is the SOAR, which automates the security overflow for the incidents and for the monitoring. The third is the XDR, or it's the same for XDR to make it simple. هي زي الانتيفيروس. It's the same as antivirus, but with a higher privileges. So all the networks should have an antivirus, but a higher privilege, which means that there should be anomaly detection and many others. But to make it simple, it's like an antivirus. And the WAF, as we just mentioned, it's monitoring the HTTP traffic, finding the the ports, IPs, and different things. الحاجات اللي في الكلاود زي CSPM, monitoring the whole cloud. I think the most ممكن تبقوا سمعتوا عنهم. The most vendors are Prisma, CrowdStrike, Wiz, or different tools. And and then the CASB. This was a new one, the CASB. So it was not there, I think, 5 years or 8 years ago. And they are enforcing security policies to detect and mitigate the cloud environment. CWPP, which is measuring or securing the workload in the environment and checking or testing the infrastructure as a code during the CI/CD pipeline. Finally, the SIM, which is checking only or making focus على identity access management. طيب سؤال، لو أنا you are the one which is responsible to buy the tools, you have the budget, which tools are the most important؟ لو أنا بتكلم على 4 tools, we need 4 tools only, which tools would be the most important؟ SIM تمام. حاجة تانية؟ الأوبجيكتيف، لو أنا عندي البادجت كاملة وأنا بحاول إن أنا أسكيور ذا environment، فالشركة مدياني البادجت وبتقول لي اشتري 4 tools to secure our environment. إيه أكتر 4 tools أنا محتاجها؟ فدي السيم، WAF، XDR. نعم؟ تمام، ماني انفنتري على الانفنتري ده صحيح. فبس الحاجات اللي قلتها دي كومن، يعني مهما كانت you are working on الحاجات دي common. ايه كمان؟ حاجة تمام، اي حاجة رابعة. نعم؟ وانا مش سامع، معلش والله. واف، اوكي، صح، واف. قالوا سم، واف، اكس دي ار، فانا ناقص لي حاجة رابعة. يعني كاسب مهمة، بس it would make the CSPM is the most important for the monitoring the misconfiguration and the vulnerabilities in the cloud. لأن في CSPM we are checking all the vulnerabilities and misconfiguration in the cloud. حاجة تانية في CSPM إن أنا بقدر إن أنا أعرف النتورك فيها إيه. I can monitor the whole network. فلو الديفلوبمنت تيم عمل حاجة security team يقدر يشوفها. نعم. نعم. هو تقريبا عندي مشكلة في السمع، فأنا مش سامع، معلش. ده solution، ده صحيح. فالفعلا مهمة جدا and especially the same WAF, XDR and CSPM. ممكن CSPM شركات بتستغنى عنها، بس WAF, XDR and the SIM they are really important. لو معناش budget خالص WAF والSIM are the most important. معناش يبقى WAF يعني على الأقل. طيب آخر حاجة security training and this is really important. The training it can be first of all the basic cloud security awareness اللي احنا بندوس next لحد ما يجي الكويز، نجرب مرتين 3 بننجح نعدي succeed. This is the main thing that we are using. However, there should be a role-based specific training and ومهما حاولت توقف الموضوع ده لا it's common بيمشي فيه، يعني هو الطريقة دي لأن أنا كمان حتى لما بيجي لي أي course which is about ethics or something like that next لحد ما تمشي. Second one is the role specific training and this ودي اتجربت and it's really effective. كل team needs specific kind of training. أنا مش حلو إن أنا كل الناس يبقى عندها نفس التريننج. For example, the customer support team or the SOC team, they should work on the incident response. يبقى عندهم على طول incident response. إيه اللي يحصل for the incident? And they can try they hack or hack the box tools. And different things for the IT, how to secure our physical assets, how to secure our digital assets, how to classify data, and so on. ثالث حاجة hands-on labs and simulations. عندنا في Uniphonic we tried to make it innovative one which is using security escape room in order to teach everyone about the security. لو انتوا حد interested ممكن اقول هي زي واحد اتخطف واحنا بنبتدي نبص على الكمبيوتر ايه اللي حصل. فهي received many emails فبنقول للemployees try to find out which is the authentic email and the others are spam. فبيبتدوا يبصوا على keywords until they find what are the authentic, which one is authentic. Then passwords. في USB لو حطوا USB يبقى كده خسروا لأنه ما ينفعش نستعمل أي USB and different things. Then the continuous learning as لما قلت في الأول البيس بتاع increased pace for cloud فاحنا محتاجين على طول إن احنا نكون بنتعلم. بس أنا خلصت. ميرسي. لو حد عنده أي سؤال قبل سؤال.